This toy sucks. Plain and simple. The design is lazy, the inception is completely corporate, the transformation is a disaster, just everything about this toy sucks. Yes, I was gonna do a Halloween episode, but I'm really not in the mood for it. My sister's out of town, and since her birthday is actually the 31st of October, my family decided to skip the festivities entirely. Oh well, at least I won't be annoyed by the trick-or-treaters this time because I'm in a jam session. In the meantime, the real horror here is how bad this blasted thing is. I suppose the best way to start off is in vehicle mode, because it's where you can actually see most of the positives. The vehicle mode is actually quite cool. Since they've pretty much exhausted everything they can do with the original design, this was actually a running theme that the Autobots had in the line, and it does well to differentiate versions of the toy. The paint is pretty good. Aside from some missing headlights, most of the details have been picked out. As usual, we have a nice blue windshield that works well alongside the gunmetal highlights, and the overall mode has a decent weight to it. There's really not much to say about the vehicle mode because overall it's pretty good. From the top anyway. Forget horror films, this is what will give you nightmares on this spooky night. It looks like that girl out of Psychopass killed Bumblebee and made one of her screwed up artworks before throwing it into carbonite.
I love you.
I know.
I mean, look at it. The head is completely visible. The arms are contorted into his groin area and the feet stick out like a sore thumb. You can even see them from at the bottom when he's up the right way. And before you ask, no, you can't turn the head around. It ruins the clearance. Also, as good as the vehicle mode seems, I can't help but feel it was derived from a typical "the audience wants this" mentality. Seems like the alt mode came out of hours of market research rather than actually coming up with something new. It's not a bad design, but it doesn't seem to come from a place of love. The second main issue is the weapon. For those who don't know, Dark of the Moon has this thing where each figure included what was called a mech tech weapon. They were designed to automorph into an extended form, and on paper this seems like a good idea. Although Bumblebee's weapon starts off as an ugly engine block, it ends up transforming into an epic long gun that would make any car look awesome. Too bad it doesn't have any locking mechanisms. Yes, this was the downfall of mech tech. Only the Voyagers and Leaders had locking tabs to keep the weapons in their extended form. The only Deluxes I remember having fully functional extended modes were Laserbeak and Starscream, and that's because their weapons combined. And honestly, there's no reason to buy Laserbeak unless you really want some much needed wings for the Takara Leo convoy. Lucky for me, although I broke the guns a long time ago, I still have the figure ready for a kit bash. So, because of the lack of functionality, this becomes a glorified paperweight. It's now forever stuck in this mode. Because of this, it looks stupid no matter where you put it. Bumblebee has tons of 5mm ports, but none of them actually look good with this thing. In either mode, the gun looks dumb from the front, however since you don't really get to use the gun properly, it's stuck as an engine block anyway. The top mounted ports would look amazing with a turret, but once again we're stuck with a stupid engine block. Same with the sides, only now because of the wheels you can't even use the flip out gimmick. So basically you're left with a car that really needs a traditional rifle on the top and a gun that just isn't happy to oblige at all. Oh, and before I move on, the gun is designed to have you pull back this lever, but because the plastic is so weak it's better just to push it down from the top. I'm worried it'll break otherwise. Seriously, they couldn't even get the mechanism right, could they? Finally, and I only just noticed this while I was writing, but in some of the areas the paint is really messy. Look, my copy's even got a paint smudge back here. For shame, Hasbro. For shame. For a size comparison, it's actually a bit small. This shrinkage was a precursor to the full-on budget carnage that was Fall of Cybertron. However, considering how many toys got by unharmed, I can't be leaning on this specific toy. My guess is that they just wasted the plastic on the weapon. The transformation is the worst! There's just no other way to describe it. The legs fall out in the most awkward way I've ever seen, taking the worst part of the ultimate Bumblebee toy and somehow oversimplifying it, making it worse. How does one even do that? The torso section is boringly simple, and I can't help but feel that the corners were cut to save on some money. And then there's the nightmare of the backpack. This thing is horrible! The wings barely have enough clearance, the panels don't lock in, the hinges are far too tight for such thin plastic, and when all said and done, nothing locks in at all. Yeah, I know I said it twice, but it really needs reiterating. You know, this figure just feels like the worst parts of Revenge of the Fallen's complexity, and the worst parts of Dark of the Moon's simplicity, and just mashing them together in a weird Frankenstein monster. Yeah, I know I said I wouldn't do a Halloween episode, but here's your Halloween thing. He's rising from the graves of Revenge of the Fallen's worst toys and turning it into an oversimplified mess of a figure that's complete sh**. And then we have the robot mode. The horrible, horrible robot mode. Even from the best angle, which is straight ahead in a neutral pose, he looks underdone at best. The torso is way too bulky for the slender movie design, the head is too low compared to the animation model, the arms are far too small and incorporate none of the car pieces, the legs are too kibble heavy, oh and look, another paint smudge. Also, almost none of this is screen accurate. Is this piece supposed to represent his new torso design? Yeah, right, without a lick of paint I doubt it. His skirt panels are on the wrong side of his legs, just hanging off as uncared for kibble, and these wings are way too small to be distinguished as Bumblebee instead of a typical G1 Datsun. Not that this guy looks anything like that. If this guy's a Datsun, he brings shame to the name. And then you turn it to the side and oh my god, it looks even worse! Swindle might be the king of hollow torsos, but this other yellow guy is a solid contender. This is seriously disgusting. It's like I can see his spine in there. His legs are also terrible, with the hollow parts hanging off the backs, making any poses other than utter stoicism completely ugly. Then we have the backpack. Whilst in some cases I'm glad it's there to avoid the aforementioned Swindle problem, this is still terrible. It sticks over the head and doesn't have anywhere to peg in, and it hampers posability and somehow manages to leave even more parts hollow. The only redeeming factor of this piece of shit is that it doesn't give him a butt flap. But honestly, if it was there, it might actually improve the figure's hollowness. Oh, and I should probably mention that the shoulder pads don't peg in properly either. Not even the torso can lock in properly. What's next on the chopping block? Paint? Well, most of the vehicle mode details are lost behind kibble and bad design, so no points there. How about the articulation? Yeah, right. For once, I don't even mind filming it because it's just so bad it's laughable. The head is on a ball joint, but it gets obscured by these overly huge shoulder pads, so good luck getting any good poses out of it. The arms have ball jointed shoulders that, to be fair, have a good range of movement, but unfortunately the lower arm is completely f***ing useless. Yes, I present to you inward elbow syndrome. Leaving out a wrist swivel is fine, but making the fist face the wrong way means you either have monkey arms or bravely default talking gestures. No waist swivel, even though it could easily have been implemented. He has ball jointed hips, but a combination of poor tolerances and insane top heaviness make any non-conventional pose impossible. He has a thigh swivel that reveals the hollow kibble innards, and a double jointed knee that could potentially work if it wasn't for the side and back kibble. Even if the kibble was all gone though, he still wouldn't be able to do anything dynamic because his feet are both completely static and too small to support any of the weight. And finally, not related to the articulation but utterly terrible, the mech tech weapon is stupid. Still stupid. For a size comparison, he's pretty big, but only because of the insane amount of kibble. Simply put, f*** this toy. Its vehicle mode is okay at best, and its robot mode is the worst thing since Combiner Wars Brawl. Yeah, this toy's worse than Brawl, and at least you can up Brawl into a 2-star figure with a shapeways kit, but there's no conceivable way to fix it. It's shit. There is no reason to pick one up, no matter how cheap it is, no matter how nice the vehicle mode looks, and no matter how much you like Bumblebee. Hell, I got more fun out of the ultimate Bumblebee toy. And that f***ing thing was from the first movie, had borderline parts forming, far less articulation than this, and the mother of all backpacks, and annoying lights and sounds. But you know what? At least it had the proper proportions, and at the time, it tried to be screen accurate. At least they took the time and the effort to design that f***ing thing. Look, Hasbro, when you try, you can really amaze me. But when you do things like this, I just can't take you seriously. I know what this figure is. You rush to get another Bumblebee out on the market for little kiddies to buy. Kids love the character, and you knew you could make a quick buck. However, this is precisely the reason that you should have tried harder. Kids deserve better. Adults deserve better. Any fan of the franchise deserves better than this. And in Dark of the Moon, they got better. They got the best design of Megatron to date, even if it was only a Voyager. Thank God I was wrong about Wei Jiang not making one. And a lot of Deluxes worked really well. Most of the Voyagers were fantastic. This toy isn't worth it. This kind of toy isn't worth it. I get that for every few good toys, there has to be a bomb. But does Bumblebee deserve to be that bomb? No, he doesn't. I picked this up because in all my years as a collector, I still haven't gotten a Deluxe movie Bumblebee. Even after all the repaints. I suppose I'll have to wait a little bit longer. In the meantime, I hope I can sell this thing off. As I record this, I'm actually about to sell off my hot rod, finally, after all this time. When was the last video out? Maybe Bumblebee can find a home where someone will appreciate him more. But for me, he's absolutely terrible. Worse than Brawl. Worse than Hot Rod. Not the worst toy ever, as I'm saving that for a big review later down the line, but still, utterly... You thought there wouldn't be any jump scares, didn't you? And you got scared by a frickin' Bratz doll. It was even a cutout of a Bratz doll. My friends kind of get the inside joke on this one, but... well, for you, you'll just have to stay in the dark, as that plastic face haunts your memories. Happy Halloween! Oh my god, I'm horrible at voices.